The Stronach Group, which owns Gulfstream Park, recently bought its neighbor, Calder Racecourse. Calder only sits about 8 miles from Gulfstream. And I don't know if you've heard this, but the Stronachs have actually now renamed Calder Gulfstream Park West. No, this is true. It's now known as Gulfstream Park West. And that new name has gone over so well, the Stronachs have just announced that Golden Gate Fields will now be known as Santa Anita North. Thanks for dropping by Lenny's place. You know, a few weeks ago, Breeders' Cup officials were running for cover, wondering if there'd be anybody left to run in the World Championships. Things were looking bleak as one star horse after another was being retired. But then we had the last round of graded stakes races before the Breeders' Cup, and we got one scintillating performance after another. So much so that this Breeders' Cup is offering some of the best matchups I can remember in years. Undefeated Shared Belief heads the Classic, and even with the defection of nearly every older horse, there's going to be huge interest in how Shared Belief fares against his fellow 3-year-olds, Tonalist, Bayern, and California Chrome. Did you see the Santa Anita Sprint Championship the other day? It's the best 6 furlong race I've watched in years. Rich Tapestry, who's raced all over the world, comes in from Hong Kong and outkicks 2 past Breeders' Cup winners, Golden Sense and Secret Circle. Now, Golden Sense is likely to go for a repeat in the Dirt Mile. Watch out for Secret Circle to improve off that race and challenge Rich Tapestry. Bob Baffert has won consecutive sprints before with a lightly raced horse in Midnight Loot. This sprint is going to be 67 seconds of joy. How about the juveniles? Who's not looking forward to seeing American Pharaoh, Carp Diem, and Daredevil throw down? Baffert versus Pletcher, East versus West. That's going to be a good one. Beholder, she looks as good as ever. Going for her 3rd Breeders' Cup win. Is going to be challenged by Untappable, hopefully Close Hatches, who is off her game in the Spinster. These are 5 or 6 fantastic Breeders' Cup races, brand name horses. Bring it on. I can't wait. I love this one. A horse is being trained for a big race. All of a sudden comes the announcement he or she is being retired. And then the quote from the owner and trainer, which is always the same. He's retiring 100% sound. How many times have you heard that one? If the horse was 100% sound, he'd be running in the race he was training for. Nobody retires 100% sound, not horses, and not your Uncle Nick who just turned 70. It just doesn't happen that way. Look, I have no idea whether the Doug O'Neill drug positive was justified or a case of contamination. I do have some questions. Among major trainers, why is it only the perceived bad boys like O'Neill and Asmussen and Dutrow who get positives called against them? And why does it take more than a year to call a positive when the samples are sent to labs the day of the race? And could regulators in a major state, New York, be sitting on other positives they haven't made public? And do they actually have the power to decide whether to call positives or not, perhaps depending on the party involved? It's just food for thought. Today's interview comes courtesy of Keeneland's new dirt track. We're here with the Hall of Fame trainer and my fellow New Yorker, Nick Zito, on a blustery Keeneland morning. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks, Len.
Good to have you here.
Appreciate it.
Nick, you've been conspicuous by your absence here the last few years with the synthetic surface. Now we're back to dirt. We're back to Nick Zito. What was the problem you had with synthetics, and also what do you think of the new track here now?
Well, we'll start with the last question. I think the new track is fabulous. I really do. And, I like the color in it and everything. And people might say, what do you mean the color? Well, dirt is dirt, and it's, it's got a rich soil to it and everything. And you could see the way they ran. It was tested right off the bat, and they passed with flying colors. So I like that part.
Good.
To answer your question, I think we were the first ones that basically were open, because I used to do extremely well down here. You know, a leading trainer, a bunch of fall meets, and you know, I think the last dirt leading trainer, we beat Todd, Pletcher, the last day or something, 2000, whenever they had it.
Yeah.
It's been so long, but they had a long drought, because synthetic basically is conducive to turf, and I don't have turf horses. And a lot of people might say, well, not really, good horse runs on anything. If you have Wise Dan. If you have Wise Dan, you could do all those things. You have to have an exceptional horse to run on synthetic and dirt.
It's been a challenging few years for you. You know, not as big with the numbers as it used to be yet. And this amazes me. I went and looked at it. You still make stallions over the last few years. Jackson Bend and Cool Coleman and Icebox and Dialed In and Morning Line and Warpass.
Thank you.
How do you do that?
No,
It's great.
Well, I appreciate it, and you know, I think that says a lot for the people that work for us too. You know, we do take care of horses. Everybody knows that, and I think the other thing too is we try to protect them as much as we could. And I'm not saying that's the answer, because you left out Unbridled Song and Mr. Greeley, and those were some of the horses we had.
I just mean the last
few
years.
And Birdstone. But what I'm trying to say is that people, they should go home in the proper manner. They shouldn't go home, you know, all tired out or all, you know, whatever. So we try to do that. I mean, not that, again, we're not the answer, but we've been fortunate, and hopefully it continues. Hopefully we got a couple of new stallions on the way, but thank you. And, you know, what happens is you go through peaks and valleys. You know, obviously your customers leave for some reason, or you have good runs with them and they leave, or you don't get the customers that, you know, the other trainers have right now. But on the other hand, we're very blessed and very privileged to the people we work for now.
Yeah.
Also, there's not to say that they can't come up with a good horse.
Sure. I don't know if you know this or not, but Darby Dan Farm is the sponsor of this show. So before this show plays, sometimes we have an ad for Dialed In, starring a certain pitch man named Nick Zito.
Yeah, that's cool.
You're great on that commercial, man.
Well, that horse is, let me tell you something. I shouldn't even do that, because you're not supposed to give stock tips out. You're supposed to have what they call insider trading. What's the nice horse that the Phipps is named a nice filly, inside information? I'll give them inside information. I'll look right in the camera. You go buy all the Dialed Ins you can, and you'll be able to send your daughters and sons to Harvard.
So you're great. You're a natural at doing those commercials now. It's very well done. Maybe after the training career, we'll do that. You mentioned clients. Obviously, you had a big one who you won the Belmont for who left, but is it a challenging environment today with fewer horses and everything? Is it tough to?
It's tougher too, and you know, a lot of people, you know, you try to look into what they go through, and it's unfortunate, because they have, you know, whether they have great sums of money or not, they look at it as a business. And unfortunately, it really isn't. I told you once before, what did my friends tell me? Dumb me up, you couldn't be a good bartender. They were right.
Now I see you have a horse in for someone named Alexander Zito. Well, what's that all about?
No, that's a cool guy. He's got what they call Hurricane Boys. That's a little stable he has.
Coincidence? Not a relative?
That's my son.
Oh!
Yeah.
It's your son?
Yeah.
Ah,
that's my son.
Great.
Yeah, and what he does is a couple of guys he went to school with, a couple of, you know, they're Hurricanes. He went 5 years to the University of Miami. So he's what they call Hurricane Boys, and he does a good job. And he's got some partners, and one of his partners now is Rich Pell, who's one of my clients. They got to like each other, and actually they talk good business together.
Give me a 2-year-old that looks promising.
We got one in today.
What do we got?
Fermento.
All right.
Fermento, and that's what I'm looking for.
All right. How long before you missed the New York restaurants when you're in Kentucky?
Well, I don't want to go too far around here, because the Chamber of Commerce might kill me. But actually, everybody knows where to find me. I got one restaurant that I'm there.
Asian Wind, right?
No, 6 days a week. The famous Malone's.
Oh, all right.
Everybody goes there. I mean, I like it. They treat you nice, and you know. But you're right. It's a little different. So I wish they could bring something down here for the people. It would be nice.
Need to get some paisans over here. That's what we need.
That would be great.
Nick, thanks for dropping by. Best of luck.
Thanks, Lenny.
Happy to report that Fermento, the 2-year-old Nick mentioned, broke his maiden later that day at Keeneland, and he looked darn good doing it. So good luck to Nick and Fermento going forward. We want to thank our viewers, we want to thank our sponsor, Darby Dan Farm, and hopefully we'll see you at the Breeders' Cup.